Hello. Hey guys. First of all, Merry Christmas. Hope you're all having a great one. So, Black Friday came out in 1974, and what blows my mind is that this movie came out before Halloween and Friday the 13th. So, and I think even John Carpenter himself even once said that he took huge inspiration from this movie to make Halloween. For example, Black Christmas, about some psychopath slaying everybody. So he thought, well, what if I did that? What if I did a story about mental patient or a mental individual slaying people on a particular holiday? Maybe Halloween? Yeah. So that alone shows the importance of this movie. So technically, without this movie, we probably wouldn't have Halloween. And then if we didn't have Halloween, we wouldn't have Friday the 13th. So, mind blown, right? But yeah, so this movie basically, in my opinion, gets about 99% of things right. Like the atmosphere, all of the characters are very well written. Like I'd say, even perfectly written. It's believable and it's realistic. Like this whole movie gives is for me is like the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Like it has that rawness, that real type of feel to it, and that's down to the acting. Everybody's acting is great in this movie. It's a very clever red herring of the boyfriend Peter, and there was one scene in particular. But anyway, getting ahead of myself. But there will be spoilers in this, and if you haven't watched the movie, absolutely recommend it. It's currently on Tubi, and the full movie's on YouTube, so you can find it pretty easily at high quality. So yeah. So the movie starts off with somebody basically walking outside a house, pretty similar to the beginning of Halloween one. Where you have that shot of like someone just walking towards the house, and you hear the breathing, and then they find a way up and you climb up and you haven't got a clue. You're like, who's this? What is this? What? And they sneak into the attic and and starts making really messed up phone calls. So you're basically told that the this killer is called Billy, allegedly, and he does multiple voices on the phone. They're all messed up. The first one is like a mimic to The Exorcist, you know, dropping dropping c words and like just messed up shit. And throughout the whole movie, the phone calls just become more and more disturbed, and they tell more of the story about who this killer is and what he's done and what he may have done in regards to characters that he keeps mentioning over and over, which is allegedly his sister, Agnes. And the more the story, the more phone calls go on, it sounds disturbing, and you realize what he might have done to his sister as an infant. But anyway, it's messed up. And one by one, he basically starts killing off all of the girls. And all of the girls in this movie, like I said, they're so well written. They feel like real people. And it's probably my favorite one is Mrs. Mac. She had like all these stashes of like whiskey or rum or whatever it is. Like she has one in a book. It's like a secret stash. There's one in the cistern of a toilet, which she pulls out of the string, starts drinking it, and she's just overall so likable. She's funny, and it's not like funny where it's like so forced. It's funny where it's like okay, that's like quite funny. Okay, like come on, like yelling at the cat, "Come on, you prick!" While the guy comes up beside her, like what the fuck? And she like plays it off like, ah, I appreciate you giving me a lift. Like it's just funny. The kills in this movie are very effective. Now there's nothing like the Terrifier. There's no guns everywhere or anything like that. But it's the first one. I think, in essence, where the girl is going up the pack, to leave, and like Billy, I think I'm pretty sure he was just making cat noises. There's a cat in this movie called Claude, and everyone's just walking around like Claude, Claude, you know. She goes over the thing and she basically gets suffocated with like plastic, and then throughout the whole movie, you get shots of her like just sitting in a seat while like either being rocked by Billy or it's just like so disturbing but terrifying, like with the right balance. And poor old Mrs. Mahig, she gets like a hook thrown at her. Some kills you don't see. Sometimes it's just that happens and you just hear the screaming and you don't see it. But I think that's more effective. Like you don't see it because this is a low budget movie. You wouldn't think it. It holds up extremely well today, but I think it's so much more effective. We don't need to see everything. And probably my favorite killer in the whole movie has to be probably Barbara's, who's probably my second favorite character. Just hilarious, sassy, awesome. But basically in bed, and there's like these carol singers at the door, and they're all singing and shit. And at the same time, this carol's going on, they're singing. You get shots back and forth, the carol singers and Barbara, and you get that probably one of the most iconic imageries in horror, like in general, which is like Billy standing over her bed like that, and you just see like one eye, and the rest is all just a dark silhouette. And he's like talking, like, Agnes, pretty Agnes, don't tell him what we did. And she wakes up, and then with every single, you know, like the cow singers just get more intense, and the fact that he does it with like one of her glass arts, which is like her thing, like she loves glass things like art. It's like it's so cruel, but it's like ironic. And you get John Saxon in this movie, who I grew up with, like in Into the Dragon with Bruce Lee, and of course Nightmare on Elm Street one and three. Great actor. He plays the part really well in this as the lieutenant, which ironically he plays a lieutenant in Nightmare on Elm Street Part One and Three. So I thought that was a cool little throwback. But yeah, this movie for me does everything right. It hits all the right notes. I genuinely felt creeped out when I first watched this movie. I had headphones in, so I was getting the full, the full sound, and it was so effective. Like this one scene where Billy just goes ape shit in the attic, starts kicking things over and screaming. It was genuinely terrifying because you're like, what? But it's so awesome. And there's a character in this called Peter, like I mentioned before, who is the boyfriend, and his girlfriend Jess announces that she is pregnant, but she doesn't want the baby. So this causes a rift and genuine tension between the two to a point where he says, I'm gonna make you pay for this. And you instantly start to think, is he the antagonist? Because they do have similar hairdos, let's be honest. And there's like it's just scenes throughout the whole movie. There's a scene where he destroys his piano, and you're like, and you saw the scene in the attic when Billy started kicking and destroying things. You're like, seriously, is this the same guy? And when you get towards the end of the movie, spoiler, by the way, when you get to the end of the movie, and after Billy is chasing her, which by this way, there's an iconic scene where she finds her friends, also similar to Halloween in the original when Laurie finds Annie, the Judith headstone, and she looks over and she hears like Billy talking, like Agnes, don't tell him what we did, and she looks over and just sees the eye at like the the little gap in the door, and you just see this really intense eye staring at her. Terrifying stuff. But after that scene, after he finds her and finds her, and she's hiding, she gets away from Billy, and Peter gets in. I don't know how he knew she was in the basement. I don't know. I thought that was a bit weird, but maybe it was just by chance. He gets in, he checks, sees her, and he goes towards it, and then it cuts to the police coming, then it cuts back to her, and Peter is, dead. She obviously beat him self-defense. She's knocked out cold. So they take her, put her in bed, and they assume, okay, it's all over. Peter was the killer. Case closed. That's it. And then, one by one, everybody in a room sort of just leaves. And they even turn the light off. That's assuming she'll be fine. Everything's done. It's all over. And then you get the camera just panning around very slowly, and you hear the odd creak on the floor. And you get to the attic, and you realize that Billy's still alive, and he's still hiding in the attic, which I'm surprised they didn't check. But yeah, so he's still up there, and he says, it's me, Billy. And then the movie just ends in just a way that the credits just go while the phone is ringing. Perfect way to end this movie, I think. And one of the best things the best creative choice they could have made was not show the killer. I think that was the most effective thing they could have done because it leaves it to your imagination. And whatever you come up with in your head is always going to be 50 times more terrifying than what you're going to see on screen. So, genius in that sense. Very good choice creatively. Perfect ending, in my opinion. It's great that we get an ending that's not always a good ending. So, I always like endings that have the balls to end on a note like that, where you pretty much can just figure out in your own head how this is going to end. Does he climb down and claim his last victim? Does he stay up there? It leaves you to that. But yeah, overall, fucking awesome movie. Definitely one of my favorites. It's in my top 10 for sure. And I totally recommend it. So, if you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it, and I appreciate all of you. And I hope you're all having a wonderful Christmas. I hope you're all having a safe one. And yeah, Happy holidays, and as always, don't kill anyone.